Hello there. The recent Thursdoid, or rather should we say Leapdoid, is packed with some really exciting upcoming info about Build 42. This one is a bit more technical than the previous ones, but stay with me here, it's really juicy and contains some things that we all want to see. I'll also leave a link in the description if you want to read the post. Before we get stuck in, I wanted to take a moment to thank all of you who have watched my videos thus far. Only around 3.2% of you who watch my content have subscribed, so if you find yourself stopping by often to watch my videos, I'd love for you to join the community by hitting that subscribe button. So without further ado, let's dive into this edition of the dev blog. Starting off with a bang, the team has now added permanent underground structures into the internal build for testing. These underground structures will be split between a few randomized locations as well as some permanent ones for us to take advantage of, which I'm quite excited for. Alongside this announcement, they released a video showcasing the possibilities of the tech upgrades in Build 42. What is great about this is how the new lighting system will pair with the upcoming basement systems. For those of you who may have missed the previous dev blogs or the news about the upcoming lighting changes, Build 42 will feature a changeover to a new, more realistic lighting system, instead of the ambient tile-based lighting system that currently exists in Build 41. Allowing natural light to bleed into darkened environments and simulate reflective light. With the new basements being added, the deeper you go, the more gloomy the environment will be. The team also mentioned they are focusing on improving sounds, which I feel is something that does need a bit of attention. By this, they will add in muffled noises, drips, echoes, and more in these basement areas. On the flip side, they will also be adjusting the noise of street level activity as you climb higher in buildings to further increase general immersion. So far, Build 42 is looking really good in terms of added immersion, and these tweaks will go a long way for you and I as the players. As much as the big things matter, it's often the small things that add up. So it's really good to see these things happening. To round off the section for the underground structures, the team did mention that, at least in the Build 42 Unstable release, you won't be able to tunnel or break down external walls of underground structures. However, they did mention that it is a can of worms best tackled later, so it could potentially be a possibility. Moving on to the next section, in which they cover some new crafting updates. Turbo from the crafting team has been cooking up a new interface to allow handcrafting items on in-game surfaces. It's worth mentioning that this is still being polished up before we have something concrete to showcase. The reason for this is to cater for items that aren't as simple as ripping clothes or opening canned food. These actions generally don't need a specialized workstation and can be done while standing in the middle of the street, for example. With the planned interface, activities like preparing a nailed baseball bat will need a surface to craft them, like a table, for example. This change is going to change the way players play in general, as you can no longer perform these actions in the heat of the moment. The team is trying to make sure everything follows a logical order with regards to crafting in Build 42 and is aware that it will rewrite a lot of player habits. They expressed the current challenges this presents in terms of a design approach. The interface they are aiming to design will provide a more intuitive way of browsing recipes, allowing crafting of multiple objects, allowing the use of tools to modify the quality and/or the success chances of crafted items, as well as provide access to all the functionality in the new crafting update. As I said before, this is still in the planning/testing phase, and the team will do their best to ensure that the UI is as clean as it can be, as they know how core the crafting aspect is to Build 42. So, to recap this, simple actions like ripping bandages, etc. in the heat of the moment will still be possible with the planned crafting update. It's just the more complex crafting options that will need specialized workstations to complete, which makes sense. This brings us on to another highly anticipated factor of Build 42, and that is improvements to multiplayer. Co-op is a very big part of PZ, and it's nice to see the team devoting attention to making the general multiplayer experience more enjoyable. The team has heard and addressed a number of concerns from the community, and so Andre mentioned some really exciting planned upgrades. Aside from the fact that the team has increased from 3 coders to 5, a huge congratulations to the team's growth on that side. They have been focused heavily on improving anti-cheat functionality, which is now being finalized. helping to prevent cheating with inventory and items, and more. Alongside this, they have been working on integrating Build 42 specific gameplay, most notably animal support for multiplayer. They also mention a list of things that they are focusing on fixing. This is not an exhaustive list and is certainly not the only ones on there to do, but it's a few of the significant ones they decided to highlight. Aside from the improved anti-cheat functionality, they are improving the synchronization of characters between clients, thereby fixing the issue of zombies suddenly appearing in front of a player or randomly teleporting instead of walking. I feel this will definitely be better felt if the server features sprinters, which commonly experience this phenomenon. They are also planning to address PvP animations and logging. The current PvP hit reactions lead to unfavorable behavior. Aside from this, they are also planning to extend logging times in PvP, so players cannot just log off instantly to prevent consequences. Finally, they are planning to fix the current issues surrounding safe house raids and exploits. Again, that is a few of the things they are planning to address, but have stated that there is much more planned that they will share in future dev blogs. There is an interesting side project being explored, which is a disguise option that, if enabled by a server admin, will allow players to disguise their username by wearing a combination of upper and lower face coverings, or full face coverings for that matter. Their hope for this is to create some novel RP dynamics for PvP servers. Quite a nifty little feature, but don't fret, there are a few fail-safes built in. Server admins can always see through disguises, and disguises can be disabled inside safe houses, for example. Following on from the multiplayer section, the team included a fun stuff section. It's a medley of info covering different topics, but contains some really exciting nuggets of information. First off, they are making some changes to character traits to have more direct gameplay implications, like vision issues, for example. In a similar vein, helmets and headgear will limit what your character can see and will get similar effects. They shared a video showcasing this, but have stated that this was a heavily work-in-progress internal video that they affectionately dubbed the Velma. Even if this is not the final product, it is a teaser into the possibilities of these upcoming trait changes. There was also a piece on the upcoming Event Zone Wild West tourist attraction, well, that's a mouthful, which is still in testing and features a new in-game item, which is the coffin. Yeehaw! The team has also been working on implementing Bink into PZ. Bink will allow the team to showcase tutorial videos when you boot up PZ instead of having static pictures. With Bink being brought into the game, in the future we will possibly be able to see moving pictures on TV screens, cinemas, etc. So it paves the way for some interesting developments later on. Finally, to round off this golden nugget filled section, the 4K retexture project is almost complete. So for those of you who play PZ in 4K, you will soon be treated to higher resolution furniture, models, and of course, higher resolution Moodles. One of the most anticipated changes of Build 42 has to be the procedurally generated wilderness map. Prof Mobius has been hard at work on the procedurally generated wilderness that will exist outside the borders of the current map, allowing for a massive world outside the borders of Knox County. They are working on an automatic blending of the map so it is a seamless transition to the outside world, so that the current border is less evident. This blending functionality will be a valuable tool for modders, as modded maps will be able to be better blended with the base map, resulting in a less noticeable transition to the modded one. Prof is also looking into generating roads so they will continue from the borders of the main map, which, as they say in the dev blog, will massively expand the canvas for modders to position their modded maps. They will now be able to space them out instead of overwriting or extending the main map, which often leads to the conflicts that many experience when playing with multiple modded maps. Biomes can now be created in Lua, allowing modders to provide more diverse biomes as well as vegetation, different road styles, and ultimately, modders will now have access to the building stamping functionality that will be provided in the new basement system, which can be extended to place buildings in the world as well. Okay, so this next bit is a tad technical as it is aimed at the modders out there, so I will try my best to summarize it as best as I can without it being too complex. The team is making improvements to the debug UI by implementing something known as IMG UI, or Image UI. This means that modding the game will be a lot smoother and easier to navigate, allowing modders to dive deep into the bowels of the game without too much hassle. They are also planning on adding a more robust debugger over the ones that they currently have. Overall, these improvements will make modders' lives much easier and hopefully lead to more interesting mod features for us as general players. For those of you who are modders and want a more in-depth dive on this, check it out in the blog post in the description of the video. With the addition of IMG UI, there have been some improvements to firearms. They released a video showcasing the planned changes to a new aiming delay mechanic, courtesy of Fenris. The video makes use of the new IMG UI addition to detail how the player stabilizes their aim and recoil and how it will affect rate of fire. Aside from this, Fenris has done a number of improvements on firearms over the last 2 weeks. These tweaks were done to make firearms more useful at lower skill levels without being too unbalanced. These tweaks include a rebalance of how hit chances and recoil are calculated along with the general rate of fire with firearms, improving the targeting highlighting, which previously was a bit misleading, with the color shifting to green with lower hit chances than expected. This is now corrected to turn green when closer to 80% hit rate. Strength now helps with recoil. Dexterous and all thumbs have an impact on how quickly you shoulder your weapon, and eagle-eyed and short-sighted can change the optimal sight range for your shots. Rates of fire have now been increased to follow more realistic expectations, but it does take a bit of time to stabilize your aim when initially shouldering the weapon, or after each shot, which makes sense. This timing will be reduced by your current aiming level as well as various traits and conditions. That's it for this Thursdoid. I hope that you enjoyed the video and found it helpful. If you did, consider dropping a like and subscribing. If you want to read the dev post in more detail, I will leave a link in the description for you. Thank you for watching, good luck out there, and I will see you in the next one.